Hey Joyce, so I'm going to go ahead and make the video for you that you can share with the partner that you're uh, contemplating on going in together on a place in Wichita Falls. Uh, First off, the responsibility and ownership being shared 50-50. There's a couple of things to that. So when it comes to the closing costs, the down payment, the expense of um, the inspections and the appraisal and the loan and all of the furnishings and all of this stuff, right? Everything needs to be 50-50. The best way that we have found as a group to manage this is that when you partner up with somebody for a property, you get a joint checking account. And in that joint checking account is all of the deposits. So if there is ever to be an expense like the furniture or furnishings or utilities, if you guys end up paying the utilities up front and then billing it out, all of those expenses need to go from that account. If the account cannot support it at that time, and you need to, let's say you got about $1,000 worth of expenses coming up, and each of you put in $500, and then that checking account pays that $1,000 of expenses, right? So as long as you're tracking on that, then that's good. All of the rents should be collected inside of that account. The mortgage should be paid from that account. The benefits. So when you look at the depreciating assets and all of that, it needs to be addressed in your contract. And I would highly suggest going 50-50 on those as well. I'm pretty sure that if you're going to depreciate the property, like let's say that one of you wants to depreciate the property by 20,000 and the other one wants to do it by 10,000. I don't know that you're going to be allowed to do that. I think that it would need to be both of you do 20,000 or both of you do 10,000. You're going to have to kind of compromise together on that. It's just part of the cost of having the benefit of doing this with a partner and not on your own. So that's like the accounting of it being 50-50. I do highly suggest this shared checking account. When it progresses to where you're cash flowing the property and you're getting an excess amount, I would suggest having 6 months of reserves. Meaning, if the monthly payment is $3,000, build that account to $18,000. If each of you deposits $9,000 to get it started, then that's great. And then at the end of every month, after the mortgage is paid and after the utilities are paid and after you collected all the rents, and it settles out, like let's say that the account balance is $19,200, right? So now you have an excess of, or a surplus of $1,200 in that account. At that point, I would say withdraw $600 each. And what you do with your $600 each is now your individual business, right? So operate the property and the account just like it belongs to both of you. Both of you have access to it. Pure transparency, lots and lots and lots of communication is highly suggested for finding success in that. I'm going to bring out my whiteboard right now and work over what it might look like for a $300,000 purchase, because in our meeting, you had mentioned that you have $30,000 that you have set aside for a down payment for the purchase. And then before I get that whiteboard out, I just wanted to cover these two things. In the contract, I would highly suggest that you guys identify that every 5 years, or if you want it to be more frequent, than every 2 years, but identify that every X amount of years on a prescribed date. So like July 1st, we're going to meet, and this is what we're going to discuss, and like delineate all of the discussion points. In this discussion, you're going to discuss how much do we owe, what is the property worth. So getting ready for that meeting, maybe in June of sometime, you would approach Jennifer, your local real estate agent, and say, hey, Jennifer, if we end up wanting to sell this summer, what do you think it's going to sell for? So then you can go to that meeting prepared. It'll sell for this much. And then she'll also provide like an estimated net proceeds sheet that'll delineate how much you're going to pay for the realtors, how much you're going to pay for your closing costs, and then how much the the balance of the loan is, and leaving what you would walk away with. And of course, that would be a walk away with 50-50 at that point. So anyway, I would definitely say that no longer than every 5 years, but no shorter than every 2 years. Prescribe that you guys sit down and discuss. Do we keep it? So if it's every 2 years, do we keep it for this next 2 years, or should we plan our exit during this next 2 years? In that agreement, you're going to want to also kind of identify, before you even purchase the property, all the things that you might disagree on. Maybe one of you wants to sell, the other one wants to keep. What are the if then scenarios? If this one wants to sell it, this one wants to keep it, then this is what we do, and this is the timeline that we do. So the example that you and I worked through, just hypothetically, was that if I wanted to sell and you wanted to keep it, then you would be on a 6-month clock from that meeting. So if it's July 1st, then you have until January the 1st to give me what half of those net proceeds would be from the professional opinion of that realtor. I would definitely get a second opinion on that number before you go dishing out money. But let's say that there's $100,000 that would be a walk away, 50,000 each. Then you wanted to keep it and I want to sell it. You're going to have to pay me $50,000 before January the 1st, right? That 6-month clock. So prescribe all of those things. There are going to be things along the line that you guys just don't agree on. The more topics that you can discuss, that might be things that you would disagree on, that you can, while you have this level of your excitement and looking forward to working together, go ahead and pin out what it would look like if we do have this disagreement later, right? That's to include on every meeting. You should probably also talk about what you can do to improve the property. And that's important right now because of one of the example properties that you brought to the table. When we looked at ChatGPT, it said that the square footage of the property being 10,000 square feet or more would allow for an ADU. So what we identified is that, like, one side of the street, there's 6 houses that have 10 to 14,000 square feet on their property, size. But then right across the street, same street, right across the street, those houses had like 9,000 square feet in their yards, their property. So they cannot build an ADU, where across the street, those 6 houses can build an ADU. Those are things that you're going to want to discuss. Like, if in the future you want to build an ADU, then make sure that when we're buying this property, that it is going to qualify at least to today's codes and standards. Obviously, those codes and standards can change. But you want to make an informed decision on that stuff. And then inside of this agreement, if there is ever to be an improvement made to the property, then this is how the accounting goes for it. We each deposit half of the money needed into the checking account. The checking account makes the expense. And at this point, your checking account is kind of working as your guys' bookkeeper. So it makes for your personal bookkeeping to be a little more streamlined. All right, so that's all of the stuff that we kind of talked about that you wanted me to explain, so that you can share this video with your would-be partner in this endeavor. Let me go ahead and draw up what it would look like for the escrow and how the money kind of works in that way. This for you, so that glare off of there. All right, so in this property, we're just going to say it's a $300,000 property, right? If we're going to do 20% down, conventional investment property loan, then that means that we're going to need a $60,000 down payment, and let's just say 3%, so $9,000 of closing costs. And payment. All right, so here we have $69,000, right? If we chop that in half, we need $34,500 from each party, right? Good time to have this checking account already. And then if you guys can afford to, go ahead and say plus our payments. Let's just pretend that the payment's going to be $3,000 a month, right? So that means our reserve amount we want is $18,000. Right. So also chop that in half, 9,000 each. Right. Come over here, add that 9,000, and you're at 43,500. Now you've got the house in escrow. What you need to do is investigations, which investigations would be walking around the neighborhood, reviewing the disclosures from the seller, asking any questions any follow-up questions as to what the disclosures are from. So, in a disclosure, I've seen people say, well, we had a leak in the bathroom, right? Well, the follow-up question would be, what component leaked? When did it leak? What did you have done to repair it? Who did the repair? May I see the invoice? Right. So those are really good questions during your investigation period. You'll also do an inspection. I've seen inspections range from $450 for a condo to $1,200 for a 4-on-1. Right. So whatever that is, you're going to chop it in half, and each of you put the deposit into the checking account and then write a check or do a ACH transfer to the inspector, right? So now we got the inspection done, we got our investigations, we got all of our questions answered. We're going to go ahead and take that contingency and remove it. Meanwhile, the appraisal was happening, right? So Derek will order the appraisal. When the appraisal comes back, yes, we agree, it's $300,000 or more, right? Then we go check, good, appraisal contingency gone. Right. And here in California, I don't know if it's the same in Texas, but we have an insurance contingency. That's so that it provides you the opportunity to go shop for insurance if something's wrong with the property. Like I've seen a property that the plumbing failed twice in the last 5 years, and it made the insurance be about twice as much as what it should have been or what it would have been if you just bought the neighbor house, right? So if that ends up being a deal killer, you can back out and get your deposit back. The insurance. Well, as long as you find a good insurance policy, then your insurance contingency is removed and you're good to go. The last but not least is your loan contingency. During the end of escrow, there might be follow-on questions that the underwriter has, especially when it's two unmarried people that are partnering up to buy property together. It's usually a manual underwrite, which still have a lot of really personal questions in a way where they'll scour through your checking account and they'll see that, hey, on the first of every month, we have this $500 going somewhere, and we don't know where it is going. They might ask you, hey, Joyce, where are you sending this $500 every month, right? And there's no right or wrong answer, right? There are answers that will stop the process, and they'll say, hey, you're no longer qualified for a $300,000 purchase, which in that case, now you're not qualified for the loan, right? And you back out of the contract saying, hey, we're not qualified for the loan. Give us our deposit back because we still have loan contingency in place. But as long as all those questions are answered, answer them truthfully. And then as long as all those questions are answered and the underwriter finds that you're good to go, they give us what's called a clear to close. So they say, hey, as long as you guys show up and sign the documents and everything stays the same until closing, we are going to write this loan. Right. So once clear to close is given, then we take the loan contingency off. At this point, if you back out just because of how you feel, then you will not get your deposit back in most cases. The only time I've seen people get a deposit back in some cases is where during the investigation contingency period, something was hidden, right? So maybe there was a crime in the home, on the property, adjacent to the property, that it just wasn't disclosed, and you found out over here in the process, right? Well, most times, this will open up the investigation again, and you say, hey, we found this out. We no longer want the property. You should have told us during this time. So us removing the investigation contingency was you acting in bad faith. You did not answer our questions to truthfully, and we found out the truth, and we no longer want the property. Give us our deposit back. They should give it back. If they don't, then you're going to have to sue them for it back. Okay. All right, so as long as everything goes well, you're good to go. You sign your documents, and the place becomes yours, right? At that point, you guys will already discussed and figured out, are you going to furnish the property? Are you renting it room by room? Are you renting it to a family? If you're renting to a family, you don't have to furnish it, right? But if you're renting it room by room, you got to furnish it. In most cases, you even have to furnish the bedrooms. You don't have to go extravagant. Usually it's a bed, the mattress, or box spring, and a side table, right? Let them worry about the dresser, let them worry about the shoe rack, let them worry about the lamp and all that stuff. Make sure that there is a source of lighting. And then each bedroom has to also have that fire egress, whether it's a window or a door to the outside. So anyway, are you going to furnish it or not? Get the place furnished, right? Put out the ads, do the background check. On the background check, if you hire a property management company, they will have their background check process in place. If not, there's plenty of resources on the internet that, and in the SWA group, will give you some feedback on which ones they found success with and which ones they've had a hard time with. So you do your furnishing, you do your ads, you do your background checks, and you place your renters. And when the renters are in place, the deposits go into the shared checking account. The mortgage comes out of the shared checking account. You maintain your $18,000 reserves, right? You do your maintenance. So let's say you have a maintenance item come up and that takes it down to 17,000, right? Then you collect that excess in rent and don't pay yourself for X amount of months until you're back to 18,000 after everything's cleared for the month. All right, so this is just advice. You don't have to do any of this way. Just wanted to kind of put it out there. This gives you a really good place to start your conversation. That's the point of this video. Start your conversation with your partner that you're going in with so that you know where you're going to have resistance. You know where you're going to have to compromise. You know where they're going to have to compromise, and come to that agreement before we even get to the point where we're in escrow. Because if you're in escrow and a dispute between the two of you ends up making it to where you're going to back out of the contract, well, you two disagreeing now to buy the property, which you already entered into a contract to buy it, it doesn't fall under investigation or inspection. It doesn't fall under appraisal. It doesn't fall under insurance, and it certainly doesn't fall under loan. So you won't get your deposit back. So make sure that you guys have everything clear and concise, and communicate. And I'll tell you that partnerships in business are a lot like relationships when it comes to the ones that don't work out. One of the parties will stop talking. When that happens, usually the only way to get things to move forward is going to be with a lawyer, right? So let's do whatever we can to avoid that from happening, and let's have a great experience together. All right.